Do you want to win your fantasy football league, like actually do it this year? Well, you're in the right place. And here's like one of the biggest tips that people forget. You have to make less mistakes than your friends. Seems pretty obvious, but everybody's trying to be perfect, get the perfect league winners. You don't have to be perfect. Just make less mistakes than your friends. So in this video, we're going to break down 4 players who will absolutely break your heart in fantasy football. You need to ignore them this year. They are going to be mistakes, and some of them are going to probably make you question everything. And one of those guys is first up right here, Trey McBride. Now, if you know anything about my content, the other leagues that I'm in, the expert leagues, you know that Trey McBride literally last year was a big reason why I won the $10,000 to First Flock League, the most watched league in all of fantasy football. Trey McBride in round 3 was a big reason for that. He had a historic season, but it was a historic season. You don't have historic seasons back to back. He's likely due for regression for many reasons outside of just naturally. Now let's break it down. Had legitimately the best tight end season in terms of receptions we've ever seen last year. Most catches by a tight end, was just piling on production. 126 catches, insane. 1,200 yards, insane. All these are number one. Yards after the catch. Like, if you look at a lot of stats, it would be hard pressed. His own team throwing 41 times. Another reason why we'll talk about regression in a second. Number 1 in the NFL. Oh yeah, most air yards again amongst tight ends. Most targets with 169. I mean, this guy was literally producing like a top 5 running back last year at the tight end position. We have not seen numbers like this since prime Rob Gronkowski, since maybe not even prime Travis Kelce, but those types of guys, right? That's how good he was last year. And specifically when quarterback Jacoby Brissett took over for the final 14 games of the year due to a Kyler Murray injury, in those 14 games, 19.7 fantasy points per game for McBride compared to just 13. He took it to the next level. 10 targets per game. A lot of garbage time targets and production. 77 receiving yards per game. So yes, Trey McBride was a beast last year. If you got him in round 2 or round 3, he paid off, and he's going once again this year at the 2-3 turn. However, he didn't get no quarterback upgrade. It's still maybe, and I say maybe because we don't even know if it's Jacoby Brissett as of this recording. And by the way, last year, Jacoby Brissett threw at historic levels. Not only just for last year did he easily lead the NFL, Jacoby Brissett, in overall pass attempts, right? Brissett last year, 35 pass attempts per game. The reason why this number isn't higher is because he came in a couple of games in relief. But if you actually just looked at Jacoby Brissett's pass attempts per game in the games that he started and completed, you're talking about 41 pass attempts per game. 41 pass attempts per game would not only rank easily number 1 last year, it would rank in the borderline top 10 in NFL history. I do not think that's happening again. You can see it right here. The Cardinals threw 649 times last year. A Bengals offense that is always known to throw the ball a ton, and Joe Burrow's up there as well historically in pass attempts per game, threw 640, right? One of just 4 teams to hit the 600 mark, and the Cardinals are leading the way because their defense was injured, their defense stunk, they had to throw the ball a ton, their running back situation was abysmal as well, with James Conner going down with injury and Trey Benson going down with injury. They literally, every situation, running backs all get hurt, defense stinks, have to throw the ball. They hit every situation to have to pass 600 plus times. And now here's the deal, because Jacoby Brissett might not be the quarterback this year. As you can see from Zane Dahabi over on Twitter, be sure to follow him. Whether we want it to happen or not, the Cardinals are going to play Carson Wentz in 2026, according to previous reports. He's their rookie 3rd round pick. Another tweet here from Donnie Druin. The Cardinals find themselves at a crossroad at their quarterback position. Do they have something in Carson Beck? They have an incredibly short window to find out. The reason why they have an incredibly short window, odds are they're picking with one of the top picks in the NFL draft next year, a loaded class that has a lot of talented quarterbacks. They're probably going to take one of those guys, which makes it even more difficult to say, like, we kind of have to get Carson Beck on the field because then we're never going to use the guy. And Jacoby Brissett specifically, well, he knows that he has leverage. He knows that the Cardinals are in this weird situation where they might not want to play Carson Beck this year, and he's saying, well, I want a contract extension. I was the quarterback last year. I'm going to be the quarterback this year. Odds are they find some sort of extension. I don't think he holds out into the season. He's probably going to show up to training camp, but whatever it might be, there's now some like somewhat bad blood there. And either way, Jacoby Brissett's not an amazing quarterback. I'd be hard pressed to believe he's going to start every game this year for the Cardinals. Now, immediately that becomes an issue for Trey McBride in this overall offense. If Jacoby Brissett is not throwing the ball as much, a trusted veteran who can get the ball to his top options like we saw last year. And if it's a rookie Carson Beck, who's like a 3rd round pick, people thought they reached on him in the 3rd round. In college, he had like good numbers. Like if you pull up Carson Beck's college numbers, you're going to be like, oh yeah, this guy was pretty solid, right? You're going to see the completion percentage in yards per attempt as a starter, 8.9, 9.5, 7.8, 74% completion, 72, 65. Yeah, he was playing at Georgia with some of the best wide receivers, or some really good wide receivers and tight ends during that time, the best team in the country. He was playing against bad teams at points. So like, yeah, he was playing at Georgia. That's going to prop you up in college. So that's one piece of it. The quarterback situation's a little unstable. Number 2 is they drafted Jeremiah Love with the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. This team is going to run the ball more this year just naturally, right? We showed you earlier, last year, they ranked dead last in rush attempts per game, number 1 in pass attempts per game. Naturally, that has to come down. When you invest a top 5 pick in a running back, you're probably going to also run the ball a little bit more, also sign Tyler Algier, still have James Conner. This team is going to run the ball. They might not have the same quarterback. And oh yeah, their defense should probably get a little bit better than what they were last year when they were all injured, meaning they're not going to have as much garbage time to have to pass the ball all the time. We should also point out that Marvin Harrison was injured last year. Michael Wilson towards the end of the year started to come on. They signed Kendrick Bourne. So like Harrison's already calling to get more usage in this offense. Jeremiah Love's there. Michael Wilson showed he could break out last year and he's going to be a piece of this offense. So like there's somewhat more target competition than there was at the beginning of last year when there was no number 3 option in Kendrick Bourne. Michael Wilson was not seen as a legitimate wide receiver in the NFL, and Marvin Harrison had a lot of question marks. So in my opinion, it took a perfect all the stars aligned for Trey McBride to be a historic tight end last year, and he paid off a second-round draft price. I just don't see all those things happening again. There's a lot of reasons why it won't. And the last reason why this should really be pointed out is Trey McBride currently goes in a similar range as Brock Bowers. They go within 5 picks of each other, both in like that second to third round turn, and Brock Bowers, in my opinion, way less target competition. Like Trey Tucker and Jalen Naylor are Brock Bowers' biggest target competition. In my opinion, Brock Bowers has a better play caller in Clint Kubiak, and right now I would say give him the edge for quarterback situation being better. All right, now the next situation we have to talk about is Tetairoa McMillan, a guy that I loved last year, a guy that really was solid as a rookie. I mean, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year for a reason, former first-round pick for the Carolina Panthers. But right now, I think he's going to be one of my favorite fades this year, and let's break it down. It's exactly why is because where he goes in drafts. So let's talk about it. So last year, McMillan, like as a rookie wide receiver, you sign up for this all day. 25% target share, was the clear alpha, top 12 in targets with 122. That's 7.2 per game. The guy was very solid, right? 1,200 air yards, went out there and just put up a good year. 1,000 yards as a rookie, 70 catches, 7 touchdowns. And he was solid, right? 14.5 yards per catch. Overall, was a solid, like 4th, 5th round pick in fantasy drafts, and I think he paid that off. He didn't win you leagues, but he paid that off. He wasn't detrimental. And now heading into this year, it's not like there's a lot of target competition added. I mean, we'll talk about the target competition added. It wasn't much. So you would think I'm higher on McMillan, but I'm not because of a couple of reasons and his draft cost. So let's talk about the Carolina Panthers this offseason, right? In terms of the wide receiver room, like they signed John Mechie. Maybe he'll be something. We'll see, right? And then in the NFL draft in the 3rd round, they signed Chris Brazel, who's a speedster downfield. I actually like Chris Brazel. I think he could play a role in this offense. But as Chris Wetch points out on Twitter right here, Dave Canales on new Panthers wide receiver Chris Brazel. Brazel's vertical presence can take the top off of a defense and create space for Tetairoa McMillan, Xavier Legette, and Jalen Colker underneath. Chris Wetch kind of summarizes this by saying, sounds like Brazel is the cardio guy for this offense, but they really did need someone with some serious speed. So I'm not expecting Chris Brazel to like threaten Tetairoa McMillan's number 1 status, not even threaten Jalen Colker as a number 2. And I think Xavier Legette probably continues to start over Chris Brazel as of right now. So when you look at the starting wide receiver room, if Brazel does start on the bench, which I think he does, it's the exact same as last year. McMillan, Xavier Legette, Jalen Colker. I do think Jalen Colker continues to impress and take steps forward. So like McMillan dominated this target share last year for 7 targets a game, a 25% target share. I honestly think he's probably going to do that again this year. The problem for McMillan has nothing to do with his skill set. That's the whole point. He doesn't have target competition or elite target competition. He has a great skill set. So what is the big issue? Well, the big issue is Bryce Young, because he's still going to be the Panthers quarterback this year. And I just really can't find a reason to really believe in Bryce Young, whether it's just his size, whether it's his accuracy. The guy like last year had the best year of his career in a while, and he barely threw for 3,000 yards. He completed barely 63% of his passes, and that was the best year of his career in a while. And still, despite all of that, he's still ranking 24th in quarterback efficiency. He's still ranking 21st in QBR. He's having a ton of not catchable passes. A great tweet here from Scott Barrett says, the entire argument for or against Tetairoa McMillan revolves around Bryce Young. That's kind of the picture I'm painting here as well. Young cleared 207 passing yards only 3 times last year. McMillan averaged 105 yards per game in those passing environments. For perspective, the Cowboys hit that mark, 207 yards, in 15 out of 17 games, with Lamb averaging 80 yards per game. So this tweet is actually in favor of McMillan. It's saying that if Bryce Young can start throwing for 220 to 250 passing yards per game, McMillan should average close to 100, if not more than 100 receiving yards per game. But I think, one, that's a small sample of 3 games. I don't think he's going to average over 100 yards per game when his team's only throwing for 207 for his entire career. That'd be crazy. And 2, I just don't see Bryce Young taking that leap. We keep saying he's going to take the leap. It's not like they got him any new weapons compared to last year to take that leap. So Tetairoa McMillan, who currently goes at the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th round, I just can't take him there, especially when you see who's going next to him. Ladd McConkey, better quarterback situation, better offensive environment for sure. I'll take him. Garrett Wilson, I would say better quarterback situation in my opinion, and I would also say better, clear number 1 cut wide receiver in his offense. I like his offense better. And across positions, Josh Jacobs, a clear number 1 running back. We'll see what happens with the legal matters as of this recording. He's playing week 1. Clear workhorse on his team and a really good offense where they're going to prioritize running the ball. The guys in this range make it really difficult for me to see Tetairoa McMillan and be like, yeah, that's where I'm spending my late 3rd, early 4th round pick. Now, before we keep going to another wide receiver people are overdrafting, and this one might surprise you, I just want to let you know about the Fantasy Blueprint. It is out right now, and it is my proven system system to help you win more of your fantasy leagues. The Blueprint has helped over 10,000 people the last few years alone win more in their fantasy leagues. It helped me win 75% of my leagues last year, including the Flock League, an Experts League, the most watched league in the world. Over $10,000 to first I was able to win, and I was 14-2, scored the most points. All that because of using the Blueprint not only for my draft, but every week of the season. It helps you from draft day to championship week. Now, if you want to learn more about the Fantasy Blueprint, you can check it out with the link in the description below. There'll be a video answering a bunch of questions on there, or it's jointheblueprint.com. You can type that in right now. It has a lot of info here on exactly what you get, testimonials from a bunch of people as well, and you can just learn more here at jointheblueprint.com. There are limited spots available, so if you do want to schmack around your friends this year, right now is the time to get in. It is not just for your draft. It will help you for your draft a ton. You'll dominate your draft, and then it helps you every single week of the season all the way to championship week. Check it out at jointheblueprint.com. Get it right now. And that wide receiver that I hinted at that people are loving this year, and I'm a little bit lukewarm on, if not, I'm fading him full on where he's going, is Emeka Egbuka. Look, the guy had a really nice season, but people are focused on those first 5 weeks of the year. I won't lie to you. As a rookie, especially when he was competing with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin last year, if I was to tell you he'd finish top 10 in the NFL in wide receiver targets, obviously that's a productive season. 127 targets, 7.5 per game, a 24% target share, was top 10 in the NFL. All of this for him in his rookie season to go out there, catch 63 balls, 38 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He, without a doubt, was way better than expectations. Even in like the most sharp fantasy leagues, he was going as like a 7th round pick. In most leagues, an 8th and 9th, maybe even a 10th round pick last year, because he had target competition in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and even Jalen McMillan. But no, what happened? Emeka Egbuka broke out relative to expectations. But it really was just those first 5 games, because then his own injuries and Baker Mayfield's injuries piled up, and he couldn't really take on the mantle when Mike Evans and Chris Godwin got hurt, when more defensive back competition or higher defensive backs, more skilled guys were looking at him. If you look at this year, the first 5 games of the year on the right side of the screen, 20 fantasy points per game. Unsustainable production as a top 10 receiver. A lot of that banking on big plays, a couple of big plays, a broken play touchdown, and touchdowns in general. He had 5 touchdowns in his first 5 games in the NFL. The final 12 games, when he dealt with injuries, when Baker Mayfield dealt with injuries, when his wide receiver room dealt with injuries, so the defensive attention was more on him and the defensive game plan, just 7.7 fantasy points per game. Obviously drops off a cliff. But we can't fully blame him for all that. Again, he was a rookie wide receiver dealing with his own injuries, dealing with his quarterback injuries, and then all of a sudden becoming the number 1 some weeks because Mike Evans and Chris Godwin weren't 100%. But we also have to point out the fact that Baker Mayfield has now been paid. He's no longer in these contract years. Baker Mayfield last year, despite dealing with injuries, of course, he wasn't 100%. He battled through them and he played all 17 games. He wasn't 100% out there. But at the end of the day, Baker Mayfield, we'll pull this up right here momentarily, was not nearly as good as he was the year before that when he earned some of those contracts. He goes from having in 2024 a 71% completion percentage, 4,500 yards, career high type numbers, to then falling to 3,600 yards, 63% completions, a lot more uncatchable passes, a lot more stalled drives for this offense. Oh yeah, by the way, this offense once again for the 5th time in 5 years has a brand new play caller and offensive coordinator, so just no cohesiveness, no gel. It's going to probably take a couple of weeks to get that thing going as well. Not great. Now, when you look at what this offseason was for the Tampa Bay Bucks, you can see here in the team changes tracker, one of the tools that you get inside the Fantasy Blueprint, they lost Mike Evans, so obviously a big piece loss, and they only brought in a 3rd round pick in Ted Hurst. So the wide receiver room is going to be Chris Godwin once again, Emeka Egbuka, and no more Mike Evans. Jalen McMillan will most likely be a starter now. Cade Otton's still there at tight end. So like in theory, Emeka Egbuka last year, who dominated the first 5 weeks of the season, he should see a bigger role, and he's going to see a bigger role without Mike Evans in this offense. There's no doubt about it. Will he be the number 1 wide receiver? That's a question. We'll find out. Like I still think Chris Godwin on paper should have that role, but at the end of the day, if Emeka Egbuka is going as the 38th or 39th overall player, meaning a 3rd or a 4th round pick, I just can't have this. Like, I can't have a shaky quarterback situation, a new play caller. I don't even know if he's the number 1 in his offense, right? When Garrett Wilson is the clear number 1 in his offense. When Ladd McConkey, in my opinion, is the clear number 1 in his offense. When Josh Jacobs is the clear number 1 running back in his offense, and these guys go all around Emeka Egbuka, I'd rather just wait. Like, you could literally wait, let's see, 15 picks later and start getting DJ Moore, the number 1 in his offense, Christian Watson, the number 1 in his offense, Carnell Tate is going 22 picks later, the number 1 in his offense. Like, why are we taking Emeka Egbuka in round 3 to 4 when there's other guys who, in my opinion, are even better picks 15 to 20 picks later? Now, before we keep going, I've got something to tell you, because I've teamed up with DraftKings, and you're going to want to hear this, because they just dropped the biggest fantasy football contest in the history of the sport. We are talking about a $20 million best ball prize pool where 3 different people are going to walk away millionaires this year. Now, look, if you've never played best ball, no worries. Here's what you need to know. You draft your team one time and that's it. No setting lineups, no waiver wire, no Sunday morning panicking. Your top scores automatically count every week. You're basically getting a fun sweat all season long with your team in players without having to lift a finger or do any work after the draft. Now, here's the part you don't want to miss. DraftKings is running a draft one, get one offer right now. All customers enter a lineup into the $20 million Best Ball Headliner contest for $25 and get a bonus ticket for a second entry. That basically means you have 2 shots at your share of $20 million and maybe being one of those 3 people who will become a millionaire. So all you have to do now is download the DraftKings app, sign up with promo code SAL, and get your lineups in before the season kicks off. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Okay, next up, let's talk about Harold Fannin, a tight end who obviously as a rookie, we're talking about a lot of second-year players here for good reason, who as a rookie, he was great, but a lot of the things that made him great are not going to be there this year. Let's just start with this. Was awesome, right? Not expecting this as like a 3rd-round tight end. He ends up going out there and ranking top 5 in targets amongst tight ends with 6.7 per game. He has a top 5 target share. He has a good year. I mean, 72 catches, great for a rookie tight end, especially a 3rd-round pick. 731 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. Amongst tight ends, these were all in like the top 5. He was an absolute mega producer. Second amongst tight ends in target rate, the percentage of targets he had per route run. He was awesome last year. However, like I said, a lot of those things that made him awesome last year, lack of target competition, really no target share, that's kind of gone this year. Because although the Browns lost David Njoku, his biggest competition at the position in free agency, what did they bring in and replace him with? Well, check this out. 1st-round pick Casey Concepcion, a stud wide receiver in my opinion. Like, you could have argued he was the best wide receiver in this class, at least route running wise. He's a beast. And 2nd-round pick Denzel Boston, who easily could have been a 1st-round pick. So in my opinion, you're getting 2 1st-round talents entering this wide receiver room. And oh yeah, the wide receiver room as of this recording still has Jerry Jeudy. So you get Jerry Jeudy, a proven veteran. You get 2 stud rookie wide receivers now coming in. Harold Fannin has a lot more target comp this year than he did last year when those 2 rookies weren't there, when he was basically competing with Isaiah Bond, Cedric Tillman, and like a banged up Jerry Jeudy. Now, the other concern for Harold Fannin is the quarterback situation didn't improve. It's still Deshaun Watson, who right now is the leading candidate, the odds-on favorite to be the top quarterback, who, oh yeah, the last time that we actually saw him being a quarterback, it wasn't great, and he's had 2 Achilles tears since then, an Achilles tear and a re-injury to it. Oh, Shedeur Sanders is going to be maybe your next best option. 1,400 yards last year in 8 games and a ton of interceptions and bad plays. Not great. Rookie Taylor Green, Dylan Gabriel, like none of these quarterbacks are saving the day. A Browns offense that last year ranked 2nd to last in passing yards per game. The Browns last year only averaged 165 passing yards per game. I don't see a reason why that's going to go up this year. Like they're just going to go out there. This offense is going to lean on Quinshon Judkins and that's it. They're going to spread the ball around more now. If they actually do improve as an offense, it's because of these guys, Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston, not really Fannin taking a step forward in my opinion. So Fannin opened up the summer going in like the 6th or 7th rounds of fantasy drafts. He's dropped a little bit since then, but it's not like he's dropped a ton. Like this guy goes in the 8th round of fantasy drafts a lot right now. Who's he going next to? Ricky Pearsall he's going next to, Jacoby Myers, Michael Pittman. Give me these guys. I mean, Kyle Pitts goes after Harold Fannin right now as the clear number 2 in his offense. And in my opinion, that's a better quarterback situation. That's a better overall offensive environment. Just give me these guys instead of Harold Fannin. So these are 4 players that you need to avoid this year. You just need to avoid these mistakes so you can actually win your league. Now, if you want to see the players that I'm betting everything on this year, it's the opposite of this video. The guys that you want to be getting, you want to be prioritizing, you can check out this video right here. I think it will help you out a ton.